this one is the one, obviously, I want to hear your thoughts on the most.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State 28, Auburn 20. It was a Big Ten versus SEC. The guys from down south coming up to the north, even though it's still in September and it's not that cold. They're there for a whiteout, which is, again, I've said it before, for what I've seen in college football, the craziest environment you could get into. I just felt like Penn State showed a ton in this game. And it's not like I had doubts about what they'd be able to show, but they literally showed it all. Clifford looked as good as we've seen. 28 for 32, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick that I really don't believe was his fault. He was kind of getting hit as he threw it. It was one of those situations. Defense was freaking phenomenal. Came up huge in a ton of situations. Big fumble recovery made Bo Nix and those wide receivers look very average, as Auburn only had 185 throwing the ball. Thinking names like Brandon Smith and Jesse Luketa and Jaquan Brisker and Joey Porter and PJ Mustipher and all those guys on that defense, like, they are a bunch of ballers. I know you've probably got some deeper thoughts than that, but I was very, very impressed.
Yeah, I think this game could have gotten even more out of hand in Penn State's favor. It's something that you and I talked about too. I mean, Brandon Smith had that pick 6. That was just, I mean, Hey, I got to give the guy a shout out. He grew up in the county right next to me. He's a Louisa County kid. I grew up in Savannah County. Man amongst boys. I think he's playing really well. I'm real excited for his future. But anyway, that was a golden opportunity to extend it. One thing, the refs really didn't help him out all that much. That confusion with the whole. I don't even understand how that was an intentional grounding in the first place. But you go there. And
they did a bad job.
It was bad, and the weird thing is historically, in those whiteout games, there's been some sketchy things that happen. And I don't know what it is. It's just, I'm not going to dive deep into that, but
the whiteout probably gets in their head too.
Yeah, it probably does. I mean, it's like, so it's just weird how some of that stuff happens. But I mean, I think starting off, Clifford, fantastic. I was hard on him earlier in the year.
We both were.
Yeah. I mean, I think he has had it, but he's a guy who's third year now playing, started pretty much all 3 years, but had some up and downs, got punched in the mouth. And the one thing that I've seen with Penn State, and I think Coach Franklin hit on it, what was that, last year, 2 years ago, about being good and being elite. He's kind of been towing that line. And I think this year, this team, the way it sets up defensively, offensively, it's kind of been like, all right, can Cliff drive that ship? Can they have that guy pulling the trigger that can drive that ship offensively and be who they need to be in the big moments? And he proved it now.
Yeah.
On a huge stage. So super happy for him, super proud of him. And like I said, I think there's a lot more left in that tank too. Between Yursich and Cliff and the whole offensive crew. I think there's a lot left. They left some plays on the table. They kind of got cute in some ways. I think they're still trying to figure out identity, what they can do consistently and then build off of it, but it works. You know what I mean? So.
All right. So I literally used the phrase when I was watching that game in the green room, Penn State's getting a little too cute out here.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what some of it looked like. And I understand why, because you got to take the chances in the big game.
Mm-hmm.
But also when you're in control and everything's working, you tend to want to not get too cute. But he is a guy that we're both hard on in terms of Clifford, and he rose up to the occasion for sure. Want to ask you, if you had to play against those guys that Penn State has on defense, I mean, what do you think your chances would be? Because that defense looks like it's for real right now.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would love that opportunity. I mean, you're sitting here talking though as part of a defense that I went and played against that was probably similar, if not more talented, that you were.
Yeah, these guys are pretty damn talented too, though.
I know they're good, but but yeah, I mean, I'd be excited. I'm, hey man, it takes a village when it comes to winning those big games, and like defensively, Penn State's in a really good position, like I was saying, and now like I just think the offense needs to keep staying on that trajectory where they're at, where they're going to keep getting better, and building into the meat of that schedule. Because we look at it, like I said, I mean, they got Iowa in 2 weeks. They got Villanova, Indiana, and then Iowa, I think, 3 weeks. So, they got a chance to knock out two of the big boys in the West in the regular season. So I just think they're building the right way. Excited for them. Moral of the story. It was a great game.
Yeah, no, I'm excited too. And I think this is exactly what James Franklin has been trying to build into for a little while now, where, he wants to be the lead dog in the Big Ten. It's what every coach wants to be, but he's been pretty vocal about his team taking the next step.
Let me ask you this then. Like, what do you think that this game meant for them, being part of a program that has taken that next step and was very consistent in the Big Ten at Ohio State? Like, watching Penn State for the past 3 years, it's, like I said, it's been frustrating for me, especially like really even since that 2016 team, where they just like, it's just been like, they're right there. But there's something that hasn't clicked for them to go from like really, really good to elite. Like, do you think that this was a moment? What do you see in this team comparatively speaking from your experiences?
Yeah, I think this is a moment, and it's for two reasons. Is number one, this team had two big games already this year, and they've been able to get tough, gritty wins that show what their team is made of. None of it was easy in either one of the games. Like you said, in this one, they had a bunch of stuff go against them, officiating, and they had some moments where they probably could have come up with plays that they didn't get, all those different things. And yet they were still able to come up with the big plays when they needed to. And I think that is confirmation to a team that they could do it. And this is the second time this year that they've done it, because they had to do it in week 1 against Wisconsin. So I think that's something you can really build on. But here's the other thing that I think really works in their favor right now is you knocked out Wisconsin, who is one of the leaders in the West. And you're looking around right now at Ohio State, who has been your big foe in the East. And you feel like you have a chance, if there's a year to really challenge them and to take a hold of the East, this is the year, because of all of the different issues that you're watching in Columbus. And so I think that's where this team can take the next step, is understanding that this is a good moment for them and that they've proven it to themselves that they can be in that position. Personally, I look at this team, and I might be the first one saying this, but I think this could be a college football playoff team, because they have a quarterback who can threaten you in the throw game and the run game. And the run game has not been very good, but he can threaten you in both. So it opens up some options. And they've got a wide receiver who can take the top off of a defense, who I think is one of the best playmakers in America. And they've got a defense that I think is as good as anything that we've seen this year. And it's funny because when I watched them against Wisconsin, one of the things that we talked about being a difference maker in that game is the direct run game from Wisconsin, because those D-line guys and even the guys in the secondary are built to compete more with a team like Ohio State than a team like Wisconsin. They're smaller, lighter guys, very good athletes. But when they needed to come up with the big stops in the run game, they came up with them. Similarly, the dude Bigsby from Auburn went off for 130 yards on the ground or whatever the case was. But those last couple drives at the end of the game where Auburn was trying to run it down their throat, just run it into the teeth of the defense, those guys said you're not going to do it. Yeah. I think that's championship football right there.
I agree with you. I think that's an interesting take too, because I do feel like whoever wins the Big Ten, just because of how good it is this year, they need to be in the college football playoff. For sure. And that's where it gets really interesting, because it's like if a team like Penn State goes out there and runs it, right, and they beat, because they're going to have to beat Iowa. So they beat Iowa and Wisconsin in the West. They beat Ohio State, Michigan State, and Michigan in the East. Like just that strength of schedule, no matter what happens in the Big Ten championship game, I think you got to give them a chance. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things where 100%, it's crazy. 100%. So, that's a good thing about this team, is they have everything in front of them. And I think, I guess the other thing is like, how do they then carry this for like longevity, right? Like, it's not like just, Ohio State had a down year on defense. Like, this is our chance to beat them this year. And then, what happens? Like, how do they carry this on for next year and the year after that? Where now it's like Ohio State's not a blocked field goal away. And, we block a field goal, fluke and a whiteout and go win the game and then go play in the Big Ten championship. Like, how do we beat these guys consistently now? Like, what do you think?
And this is what it's going to be, is you're spending money on facilities over there in State College. So that's a big deal. But you can take the victories, the results on the field, and you can use that as currency in recruiting. And you can do the exact opposite for Ohio State as well. And some people don't like negative recruiting. I don't care. Like, you got to win the recruiting battles however you can win them. So you could say to a defender that would keep that standard of defense that Penn State currently has, are you trying to go to a defense where they can't get it figured out and they're giving up a bunch of passing yards to a team like Tulsa? Or do you want to come here where Bo Nix and this Auburn offense that was statistically the #1 offense in the country at the time we played the game, they come in, they only throw for 185 yards. What defense do you want to play for? You know, if you are on offense, you can say, do you want to be the next guy up? You know, when Jahan Dotson's gone, do you want to be a part of this offense where you can be the spotlight guy? Ohio State's got 7 guys in their wide receiver room. Come here, be our guy. And I think that's the difference, is you have to match the results on the field with how you're recruiting the kids too. And I think that becomes an opportunity as well.
Right. That's an interesting take, man. I appreciate that.
Oh, no doubt.